everybody. Nick Hamilton, Nightcast Media. Thank you for doing this. My question is for Nicole. First of all, for you and Russell, you guys have done an outstanding job on this series. But for you
Thank you.
specifically, how were you able to blend and dwell as far as building the chemistry over the course of the seasons leading up to season four with you, Layla, Da Vinci, Russell, and Lil Meech?
Well, I'll start with Russell. So Russell and I go way back, and we did an August Wilson play called Jitney. We were off Broadway for about 9 months, and we toured that show for like about 2 years. So, and we played boyfriend and girlfriend, and it's very similar to our roles on BMF, actually. So it's like Young Blood and Rena grew up and had a family. So we've always had had great chemistry and a mutual respect for one another's work, and that's just my friend for life. And everybody else, we just all kind of fell into place, and there was no question. As soon as I got on set, the kids started calling me mom. And we just built the family from there. So it's a really beautiful chemistry and a really beautiful family. And we just so thankful to be there.
Thank you so much. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Penny Malloy Harper from Pembroke TV, and congratulations on season 4 of BMF. Amazing show. So, what I wanted to say was Terry and Meek's illicit activities, they're often associated with like broken homes, no dad, no food, no love. However, their situation is unique because they come from a God fearing home with two hardworking parents. So, I just wanted to ask you, as well as Mr. Hornsby, do you think the parents became more tolerant or less tolerant of their behavior as the seasons progressed, and why?
Um, I think they became less tolerant, but I think more importantly, I think they were just tired. I think that they're just worn down. And I think that oftentimes what we've seen with Black families is that you just really just keep getting browbeaten with economics, with the struggle, with trying to keep your family together, with trying to keep a roof over your head, with food on the table, dealing with hours at work, inconsistency of hours, inconsistencies of work and all that. And so I think they were just worn down. I don't believe for one moment that they that they condoned what their kids did. But, I think after a while you get worn down and then you look for the sunny side of the street. And so everybody likes to walk on a little sunshine every now and then. And so I think everybody can fall prey to the spoils of illicit activity, as it were. And so, and it's happened time and time again. And I think that, at their core, they know what their children are doing is wrong. But through society, through government, through economics, you just get worn down and tired.
That is the absolute truth. And Mrs. White, do you have any comments, please?
I just agree with most of what he said. I think, I love that they come from a God-fearing family. So we gave them the tools to, do their best out in the world. And yet the opportunities outside were very limited. And sometimes when you have dreams, and it seems like there's no way to get them, you might, do other things. So there's a part of that I personally, Nicole, can understand. And yet, as a parent, you want your children to go to college and do all these, quote unquote, wonderful things, but they still use their brilliance in many different ways. Yeah, that's all I have to say on that.
Thank you both for those answers. Very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
How's it going? Derek Dunn, Reviews and Done. Just a quick question for both of the talents. What is one thing that you hope the younger viewers, particularly males, take away from this show?
I'll speak on that. I think the biggest thing for me that is really beautiful about this show is that it's about family. It's about family and love. And if you can walk away with that, like there's something for everyone that watches the show, no matter what age range. And the love that's in this family, I think is amazing. And I think that really kind of carries the show in everything that everybody does.
Yeah, I mean, I just to echo Micole's sentiments, I agree. You're nothing without family. That's that's who you are. That's where you come from. That's where you get your a lot of your identity, your cultural specificity. All of these things come from family, and I think that where we are, with this administration, with this country, we not only just need our families, but we need each other. We need the cultural connection of who we are and who we've always been. I think we just need to continue to tap into that, and just know that we have to be there for each other.
Dana Abercrombie, the Koalition. My question is for both of the characters. What I was wondering is, there's a lot of change in the family dynamic. I wanted to know, is there a change in how you see each other, how Charles and the wife, I'm sorry, I blanked for a second, see each other within the show? Lucille, sorry.
Yeah, I think, I think at the core of it, like just like what we just said before, I think the love is there no matter what they go through. And so, but there are a lot of changes. You get mad at family, yeah, I think for me, for Lucille, there were moments for sure, like season 2 when, he stepped outside and stuff like that, where, yeah, she's looking at him in a different way, a little bit, and things are shifting and changing, but she's starting to look at herself in a different way. But, the characters, I think, are constantly evolving. But still, again, at the core of it all is a love and a friendship that I think between us that always continues.
I think overall, when we look at season 4, I think that when we look where these families started, we really look at they started at the macro. I mean, I think that there was a 30,000 view of the Flannerys, and they were all just about each other. They were just about family. And I think that what we've done is the families has grown and some have strayed. But I think where everybody's beginning to look at is they're beginning to look at themselves. I think that Charles and Lucille got married very young, and all they knew was about each other. All they knew was about the strength of each other, the strength of family, the strength of this union. And we can do it together. We can make it happen together. And I think as they grew older, they got more mature. They start to realize there's more to this than just the family. What do I want? What do I need? And you said it can be, and then I think that's also extended to the kids. Kids get older, they get more mature. They want to branch out. They begin feeling themselves, as the old folks used to say, they start to smell their own pee. And so they want to think about themselves as individuals. And I think that's where we're beginning to see a lot in season 4. It's the Flannerys, they go from family, they're still a family, but now we're starting to see the individual, how they are, how they see themselves, and how they want to be seen, which is different from what we've had in the previous seasons.
Thank you.
Tamara J. for Noir Online. My question is for you both, Michole and Russell. I wanted to know, from the overall series, what do you both believe is the most valuable lesson from a cultural aspect for viewers to learn?
Yeah, I think the most valuable thing, and again, this also holds true for what Michole and I have tried to foster with the young people on set, is that you can't skip steps in life. You can't skip steps in what you do. You can't cheat life. And you can't cheat the work. And I think that, whether it's, we'll find out about Terry Meach and the family, with when you're trying to get into illicit activities, when you're trying to get quick money, with fast money, illicit money, things are going to happen. And ostensibly, that's you trying to cheat life. That's you trying to skip steps. And you can't do that. Whatever you want to do in life, you have to work for it. And so I would like for a lot of young people, young artists, young actors, musicians, whatever it is, just young people in life, just to understand you can't skip steps, and you can't cheat life, and you can't cheat, the game, if you will. You have to put the work in. You have to.
Hello, Michole. Hello, Russell. My name is Journey Green with Sincere Journey TV. So I have a question. So it's season 4. So we have evolved. A lot of new changes have happened. It's been a couple of years that have passed in this new season. So Nicole is graduating from high school, and we know Nicole to be like the baby of the family. Meech and Terry got their thing going on, but Lucille is becoming a pastor. Charles then is on tour. He's been touring and everything like that. So I want to talk about this moment that's in season 4 where we see you guys kind of become proud of Nicole after her graduation party. And then the next episode, we see the car being stolen and that she gets caught up with the police and things like that. So we see a heartfelt moment between Lucille and Nicole where she's talking about the gown and how you're becoming a pastor and how she's gaining her graduation gown. But then we see your parenting style change whenever she's caught up with the police. So how would you say your parenting style, Michole, as Lucille has evolved since becoming a pastor? How would you say that it's changed?
How has her parenting style changed since becoming a pastor? I think on the outside looking in, I think like for the family, particularly Nicole, I think, it feels like they see me as, I'm changing and I'm becoming different because I am the pastor. And so I have to act this certain way and present a certain part of myself within the church community, and it seems like I might be a little full of myself in terms of that sometimes. I don't know that as Lucille, that she's seeing it that way, but then there are things that become more, now that she's a little more in the spotlight in the church, some things can be embarrassing, from family and stuff. And but overall, I think that Lucille is just trying to do the right thing. And yeah, we were super excited that she graduated and she could be the first one to go to college and all of that. And now you stole a credit card. Like, no, that's a problem. So we got to switch it up a little bit,
Right. I have a question also for you, Russell, with Charles. So y'all have a moment too where she's telling you how, Nicole, you and Nicole have a moment too where she's telling you how proud she is of you for touring and chasing your dream and things like that. And then we see on that same episode with her getting caught with the police, how you actually give up the one thing that's bringing you joy to actually bail Nicole out of jail. So how did you approach, showing Charles' emotional journey this season, especially with that internal tug of war between something that you love and then also being the glue to the family?
I now, being a father myself, I do understand now the whole commitment that you have to have as a parent, right? And so you have to do any and everything for your children. And that's, I think that's what Charles is coming through. He said that, I still have to put my family first, but even more so my daughter first. I have to protect her at all costs. I don't want her to be, exposed to the world in that way. So I have to provide a safe haven for her. So the last place he would want his daughter to be is in jail, is exposed to the elements of the real world, if you will, and he's going to do whatever he can to protect and or save his daughter. And I think that's just what any parent would do. But I also think that more specifically, what a father would do. And, I'm going to be a little crude here, but, as Chris Rock so eloquently states, you got to try to keep your daughter off the pole. You know what I mean? So that's what Charles is looking to do here.
Thank you so much, both of you.
Hi, Nancy Green here. And my question is about the relationship as a whole. We see at the end of season 3, of course, they get divorced and everything like that. So I wanted to know if you could kind of talk a bit about what that means in terms of parenting for them in season 4, and just what it says about Black relationships and kind of keeping the family unit together, even though they're kind of doing their own things as well.
For me personally, that's the one thing that I really do love about the show, that, you know, despite our differences and stuff, I think, even when we get mad at each other, at the end of the day, I know that he's a good father. And I care deeply about him. And we want to do what's best for our kids. So we do always come together on that. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about the show.
Yeah, I mean, I see that we're Charles and Lucille, that every relationship, when it's strained, it has a breaking point, you know.
Mhm.
And I think, you know, what we saw in season 3, and I, you know, I'm curious. I'd always be curious, you know, if there was, whether if there wasn't infidelity, how much longer would they have stayed together? Because I just feel like their relationship was strained. It had a breaking point through the finances, just through everything, and each other sort of feeling with themselves not being seen. You know what I mean? And I think that for Charles, or from my perspective, that he sort of checked out for a time as far as being a parent. And I think that what begins to happen with what happens with Nicole, I think that's the thing that kind of brings him back. I think that he was fathering sort of from a distance for a while, and then when she gets, you know, picked up by the police or whatever, what have you, that kind of brings him back and says to him, "My job is not done," you know. And I think everybody, every parent, every individual, sometimes we do stray off and we lose focus, and we need that shock to the system that kind of brings us back to reality and says, like, you have to be here, you have to be present. Well, I think that was his sort of moment.
Hello, my name is Karan Lenoir Kelly from Karanism.com and Love Music Pleasure. And I look at a lot of our shows, our narratives from the perspective of love. And this question is for you, Michole, and then Russell, I'd like for you to respond as well. But Lucille is going through her own conscious evolution, from betrayal with her husband, opening herself up to love and pleasure again, then being betrayed again, then choosing herself, and now choosing her faith. She has evolved, but we don't often see a woman's love evolution, especially at a certain age on television, especially not Black women. What can you speak to Lucille's evolution, and even to your own, in the ways you love, the way you choose to love, and the way you love yourself?
Wow. I'll speak to Lucille's evolution. You know, honestly, this season actually surprised me because there are a lot of things that in this season that she would not normally do. And she's taking a lot of chances. She's, you know, and getting a little, but sometimes when you lose your way a little bit, you gotta, you know, or when you're trying to find your way, you gotta make a lot of mistakes or allow yourself that. And I think that's important, to give yourself permission to be imperfect. I think on the show, and that's, you know, for Michole, and that's a big deal for me. It's like, oh, you know, everything doesn't have to fit into this box just so. What if you just showed up and you were just like exactly the way you are, and you didn't feel like you had to be perfect or this idea of whatever? And, you know, on the journey to finding that, we trip and fall, but that's how you find your way. It's like, oh, I bumped into the wall, but thank God for the wall, because now you know that you need to go the opposite direction. And I think the fact that Lucille has the permission, which is a little bit scary this season for me, that she has given herself permission to trip and fall and do all of those things, takes a lot of courage to do. And then we, you know, we find a way to land on our feet. But I think we need to have that space to just be, whatever that is, you know.
And Mr. Russell, your response?
Can you sort of restate the question?
Sure. I'll reframe the question. We don't often see women loved at this stage in life. And Lucille is going through her own conscious evolution. The friendship, the marriage is going through its own revolution, if you will. Not seeing a lot of women on television, especially Black women, being loved, choosing love and choosing themselves at this age. She has evolved. How has Charles evolved?
I think that I think for the first time, it's interesting. I'm just juggling with his aspect of revolution or evolution, if you will, right? I still think that Charles is somewhat stuck still. You know, I still think that he hasn't gotten over himself, right? And so I think that, you know, they talk about revolution is quick change, evolution change over time. And I think he may get there. But and I think we'll see later on in this season that he realizes how stuck he really is. And I think that affects him emotionally. And he's looking for answers that he cannot find, that won't come. And I think as a byproduct of that, as a byproduct of feeling stuck, as a byproduct of feeling in a mire, if you will, I think that he sees himself as trapped. And I think everybody else around him has grown, has evolved, has really found who they are. And I feel like Charles feels like the only one who doesn't get what he wants or desires and or needs to pull him out. And I think because of that, he remains stuck.
Thank you. I guess the revolution will be televised. Thank you so much.
Tune in.
Thank you. Great question.
My question is for Russell. For you being a father that's, like you said, trying to find your way and obviously guiding two young Black males through life, how important for you is it to display not just the positive side, but the negative side, to show the balance of what Black fathers, you know, go through, not just in the household, but outside, and still be able to achieve, you know, the dream that Charles wants to achieve with music and being able to grow and develop?
You know, I think with the good fortune that I have that that Charles didn't have, doesn't have, or my parents didn't have. I don't believe that my father, and I don't believe that Charles had enough of an opportunity to really have his children see him as a hero. And I think that fortunately for my children, just because of how I've been able to sustain myself in this business, to be able to earn and provide for my family, my children still at their young, tender, impressionable age, still have the opportunity to see their father as a hero. And so before I expose my children to the flaws, to the failings, to the ills of what it is to be a father, what it is to be a man, what it is to be a husband, I want my children to see me as a hero for as long as they can. And so because when that drop-off happens, when my kids see reality, not only for themselves, but for their parents and their father, I want them to be on as solid a footing as they possibly can, so that moment when they realize my dad is not Superman, they're on firm and stable ground. Do you know what I mean? And I think that that's my job. And I think that has been the beautiful shift and the change and the evolution that we have bore witness to over these last generation or so, where more parents can sustain themselves in such a way where their children can continue to see them as heroes before they recognize and really see who they really are. And so once hopefully my son is 15 to 18 or whatever, then I can start to say, hey, son, daddy didn't always do the right thing. You know what I mean? And then at 17, 18, they go, I get it, Dad. I understand that. I can't judge you. I understand. But if they see that at 12, they see that at 10, then it's almost as if I have failed. Do you know what I mean? And so you don't want that, because that's where trauma ensues, right? And then that's where they look at the next 20 years and try to get out of that traumatic quagmire that they've been in, and now you got to pay for therapy and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So I just want my kids to see me as a hero for as long as they can.
Very well said. Thank you so much.
Hi, I wanted to just feed off of that question. Mr. Mr. Hornby, you have such a strong parenting influence. Do you ever get to influence any of the writing to give some of your perspective as a parent to these young Black teenage men?
I think they do. I mean, I think the writers do sort of, follow Nicole and I lead just as who we are on set. And I think that they've written to our dynamic as a couple, as a pair, as teammates, how we work together. And I think what that has done is allow them to blossom how that feeds into parenting styles. You know what I mean? Nicole and I, just as people, we're throwbacks. And so we're perfectly suited for those parents of yesteryear. You know what I mean? And I think that we give a lot of that energy on set.
Speak
and
for yourself. So speak for yourself.
Well, okay, that's me, old school brothers. So you know what I'm saying? Okay. So I'm one of the, I say, not what I do kind of brothers. You know what I'm saying? So no, but I think that we've given that energy on set, and I do think that the writers have witnessed that firsthand. I think they've fed that into the pen, and fed it into Charles and Lucille as parents.
And also, just to piggyback on that, there is always space for, like, if something feels like it's not right or whatever, there's always space for us to say, hey, it feels like this could be more like this, or, I just had a question about this, and they're always very, very open to the possibilities of doing it differently if we need,
And that's what makes this show so good.
Yeah.
Just another quick question for Russell. From a fan fiction standpoint, where would you say that Leon Taylor, number 33, is in 2025?
Where do I say Leon Taylor is?
Yeah, where would you say he is now?
He's probably trying to get, did a little hit on First Take a couple times. You know what I mean? Was, did some commentating, some guy that got a podcast or something. Talking, named it My Knees Still Hurt, something like that. But I'm sure, he's still, hopefully he got his family, wife and kids still with him, and he's just enjoying life right now.
Thank you, sir.
Dana, again, my question is for both of you. What do you feel that the characters have learned from each other during the whole situation with the divorce and being married and their whole life together?
Again, I'm one of the cats. I'm gonna just keep it real. You know what I mean? I don't think Charles has really learned much. I think that's part of his issue, and that's part of a lot of his arrested development. And I think that's part of what you'll see transpire through the course of this season and beyond, is that and which made him susceptible to end up in prison for a while. Because I don't think he did grow. And I think, he didn't understand that his job was to be the patriarch, was to be the leader, was to be the example for his kids, and not succumb and get weak by the money, by the opportunity, and he did. And so I honestly don't think he did.
And I think as far as Lucille is concerned, I think in every relationship that that person is a teacher, that you're learning, and that person is reflecting you in some kind of way for you to grow to another level, whether you're conscious of it or not, and whether it's like all quote unquote bad things or not, whatever they're showing you is saying, hey, you might need to change some things up and do things a little differently. And I think that's one of the biggest things that she learns. One, I think she learns unconditional love from him, because I think they really have that. And two, I think she learns that she needs to take better care of herself. And I think she learns that from the whole family, that, you know, she spends a lot of time, or has in the past spent so much time giving so much of herself and making sure everybody else is okay, that she didn't feel like anybody else was making sure that she was okay. But nobody can take care of you like you can take care of you. And the more you show up and take care of yourself, then other people start to meet you where you're at, and you start to attract more of that to yourself. But you sometimes need that person on the other side to show you that, hey, this is what's really happening, and this is the way that you need to grow. So it might hurt for a minute and you go, oh, dang, okay, thank you for showing me that, so I can go another way.
Michole and Russell, thank you for a wonderful conversation. On behalf of the world's largest group of Black film and TV critics, we appreciate your time, and we look forward to continuing to support you as you continue to do all the wonderful things that you are doing with your career. Thanks, everybody, for watching this edition of AAFCA Roundtables. Have a great day.
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.